Every week, except in the depth of winter, more than 200 fairs travel from site to site, up and down Britain. 4,000 families move with the caravans, each working independently for itself, all of them belonging to one of the closest knit communities in the world, the travelling show people. For some, the season begins in earnest at Knutsford Heath in Cheshire, early in May. Michael Collins, a tycoon of the fair business, is the lessee there. With his father and nephew, he marks out where the roundabouts have got to go. From their owners, and the owners of stalls and sideshows, he will retrieve the £300 he's paid in rent for the heath, plus, with luck, a little profit.
Well, we've always lived in caravans, and we've all been born in them. I wouldn't like anything else. And to go in a house, I'd be a bit frightened with the stairs and that many doors. I think I feel a little bit hemmed in.
Michael Collins, who puts up and pulls down his waltzer 41 times in a year, is the 5th generation of a large and famous fairground family. Few people get into the fairground business except through birth or marriage. Nearly all belong to the Showmen's Guild.
My great-grandfather and grandmother had a boxing booth travelling affairs. And my grandfather and grandmother used to spar in the ring in the boxing booth. My grandmother being a lady boxer, she used to spar with my grandfather. And maybe if they'd had a row one night, he used to give her accidentally on purpose a little dig to get his own back.
If you're a member of the Showmen's Guild, you can't just let ground to anybody who isn't a member. They must be members. And they're very strict eligibility rules. You must be either born in the job or marry a girl in the job, and we try to keep it exclusive that way. It has been called the most exclusive trade organisation or trade union in the world. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's pretty exclusive.
Now, in the Showmen's Guild, we have a 2-year ruling, which means that if a man attends with the same tattle for 2 consecutive years, he has a ruling as long as he still wants to attend. If he misses 1 year, he's forfeited his rights. This does not apply to novelty shows, that is, shows that show 5-legged cows or a 2-legged or a 2-faced woman or a bearded man or a bearded woman. But because these shows are a novelty, and once they've been to a fair once, they don't usually come back again, because once a person sees them, they don't want to see them again.
And there's other sides of this fairground life that's not people don't realise. There's the clergy paid, very few visits paid up to clergies. I'm not particularly getting any different denomination. I myself are RC, and I'm very badly neglected, speaking for myself. I've spoke to several priests quite recently about this matter. Very seldom they come near us, which I don't think is quite right, especially when you see the expenses sending these missionaries out to Africa and different places. There's a lot they could do at home, isn't there? Don't you think so yourself?
Absence of clergy seems to cause no special distress to the travelling labourers, the tough, hard-living gaff lads, who before the season ends will have put up the big roundabouts 30 or 40 times. Most gaff lads frequently change from one employer to another. Some do a spell in prison. Many grumble about the life.
Well, I've been on this job now for about 13 years, and what's in it, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. There's nothing, there's no interest in it, you can't get nowhere. You're rough, you're living rough, your money's rough, your food's rough. In fact, everything's rough. The average workman on here gets about £7.10 a week. That's for 7 days. He sleeps where he can find his bed.
Well, we've got a caravan now. We're one of the ones that's got the caravan. It's not too bad, but there's some of them on the ground now that sleeps under some of the machines.
We should get about at least £8 a week. And £8 a week, £8 a week, and £8 a week, and a pair of jeans thrown in every week, because we're always dirty when we're opening up. When the time comes for opening up the machine, we're always dirty. Well, there's one thing I want to say about the girls what come down to the fair lads, you see. I mean, we don't want, sometimes we want to bother and sometimes we don't. But this what gets me about. If a girl comes down and she's well dressed and this and that, now something happens and the parents or the police come down and they take us up to court through them, and we find out they're underage, you see. Well, we don't know they're underage at the time. Some do, but some don't. So what they do, because we're fair lads, they say, well, right, he's a fair lad and that's it. So they send him to jail for about 3, maybe 6 months.
Once the big machines are up, it's customary in this part of the country for owners of stalls and sideshows to draw lots for position.
Yeah. Count the names out first. Who's got the names?
You got the names.
Alfie Milan Jr. 33. Mr. Russell. 16. 16. Kay Hopkins. 22.
Yeah, next one, please.
H. Wallace. Number 1.
Oh, I bet the jackpot.
It's a trick.
Some stall holders also own a roundabout. Most have several stalls. They reckon they need one more for every addition to the family. Matty Moran only got into the Showmen's Guild after years of trying, although he had been a fairground boxer since he was 15. Gypsy Rosa Lee, as a fortune teller, will never be admitted. She and her family set up their caravan just outside the boundaries of the fair.
Me and my daughter is Romany Palmis. My son has a hot dog cart, and my grandson has donkeys and ponies.
Fair children help with the job from their earliest years. Some children are left at boarding schools. The rest see little of schools in the course of their travels. Once the work is finished, they're free from dawn to dusk.
As you will understand, our children do miss a lot of schooling, probably as much as 25%. But we find that once they get settled in the winter, from November onwards, and we get them quickly into school, that after they've been there a month, 6 weeks, we find that they're well up to standard of other children. In fact, teachers have complimented me personally on my own two boys that how quickly they moved up to the class once they got into the swing of the school, and the very business itself tends you to be quicker.
As soon as they're old enough to walk and talk, we treat them as more or less grown up, so that they seem more advanced than normal children. They can pick up things very quick. Give them something to do. I mean, my little boy likes driving the car, and he's only 7. A normal child doesn't get on a car or anything like that until about 16. But all our children are fetched up like that. They're straight onto vehicles, and they learn the business. So naturally they're learning about money right from an early age.
It's like when we're open fair days, a little girl come in and make candy floss, and a little boy come and stick some apples, you know.
We sent them to school just to be educated, to read, write, and as regards earning their own living, we learn them to do that. It's no use of us sending them to school to be lawyers, or to be into offices for typewriting or out like that, you know. Now, the Mary Ann is a 17-year-old now. Now then, Mary Ann, you must give over. Mary Ann's 17-year-old now, and I'm expecting her to get married sometime or another. But she's going to get a man with plenty of money. How does that suit you? Smile a while. Well, our John, he started to be a priest. He went to school to be a priest. And after so many years, they fetched him from there, and he went to the war. And after the war, he had to come back and look after his own business, this here Noah's Ark. Or the Speedway, as you call it. So what good is the education for our people? At any time. It is no good, is it? Definitely not.
For the fair people, this Friday is merely the eve of another opening. For a local schoolgirl, tomorrow will be a day to remember for the rest of her life. When the fair comes, Knutsford holds its May festival, and Susan Clark is to be crowned Queen of the May.
I crown thee Queen of our Royal May Day festivities.
Make 3 wishes where that crystal is concerned by that right hand on the top. Has your husband a J, G or W in the surname or Christian name or a H?
None.
He's going to be more luckier and more successful where his work is concerned than what he has been. He's his own boss in some ways, but not in others.
Yes.
He's got a lot to learn. You and your husband's different in temperament.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He's more on the quiet and the reserved side.
Yes, very quiet.
If people comes, he makes them welcome. If he's to stop away to please the sun.
Yes.
He's never blessed you with a house full of children.
No.
But you've crowned your marriage.
Yes.
You know what I mean by that?
Yes.
You'll have an offer to sign a paper where money is concerned, and that money will come through sport.
Oh.
It'll be nothing that you need to weep about. And there's no gypsy can look in your hand and tell you anything serious. Only the future's going to be better than the past.
Well, that's very nice.
And there'll never be a second ring. And your one married life to suit you. And take 3 wishes in your own mind, but don't tell a gypsy. Make it sharp. Your first wish was a gentleman.
Yes.
And that gentleman's name connected with a W.
Yes.
You're going to be very lucky. The 20th of May, connected with your love affair, that concerns a gentleman that you're very sentimental over, to the 20th of June. You'll have 2 children to crown the marriage, a boy and a girl. It'll be a very honest event, and the future's bright.
teenagers have got the money to spend. Definitely, they've got the money. Because they're the only people that seem to be working now. You don't see many old ones working, do you not?
Our prices are still static. We still charge exactly the same as we've always charged. A roll a penny is still roll a penny. It would be a lot different if it was roll a half crown to suit the state of the prices of today. The small man now, at the moment, has to go to work in the winter to subsidise this business. Once over, he could have stayed off in the winter time, painted and done repairs, but now he has to go to work. Myself, I go coal hauling for the National Coal Board.
I think it's because of this hire purchase money each week, this 5 bob, 7 and a ton a week business for this, that and the other, in the home and out of the home and the car, and must keep that going. And although when we get the people on the fairground, they're interested, they're very interested to come and have a try. They only want one try, whereas before they'd stop 10 minutes with us or so. They want one try and move on to something else. That's all they can afford. One ride or one candy floss or one go on a stall, and because they just haven't got that loose money they did have.
We are the first barometer of how the weather, how the trade is going in the area. And we often get asked by people outside the business, how do you find business? Solely for the reason to find out how the country's going along.
Now listen, put her into bed, put the rail on. I'll be back in a few minutes to see you. You go to bed and be a good boy, right? Good night. Night, right.
In bed. Come on, I'll tell you a story, eh? Come on, under the bed.
Boxing shows can no longer rely on local fighters. Matty Moran throws a challenge for anyone to take on the Bone Crusher. To make sure there is a challenger, he's planted one in the crowd.
Hey, the box.
Will you box him? Come inside and bring the horn with you.
Racing, kicking, big riding, stunt riding, and go-kart riding.
And the shooter will come up.
I've said to my husband, let's get out of it and try something else. But
It's my husband's heart and soul. His life's in it, you see. So, I mean, you can't ask a man who's all that to get out of it. You know, you just have to live with it.
When a gypsy crosses your hand, I cross your hand with good luck and good wishes. Do you understand that? The gentleman what's put this ring on your finger, is he a little taller than you, or is he a little older?
Taller.
Can you put a letter J, G, or W in his name?
Yes.
That gentleman's honest, trustworthy, and he thinks a wonderful lot about you. There's no death, there's no sickness, there's nothing to be afraid of. And during this last 12 months, you've had one or two little problems. There's someone in that crystal ball that you're very fond of. You understand that? But there is an obstacle.
Knutsford is really quite a genteel place. But even here, the more vulnerable sideshows start to close at 10:30, as Walter Scott explains.
Although at one time, the type of people you got out of the pubs were really good, genuine spenders. We relied on that years ago, this coming out of the pub and have a good time on the fair, and they were a nice class of people. But today it isn't so. If we stay open, we find we're apt to get a lot of these long-haired buggers, and we don't want them, frankly. It just isn't worth it, we find, that people are coming earlier to fairs anyhow, and that's better for us. It's much nicer to take money off nice people than off a lot of louts, isn't it?
Now, ladies, one of Paramount. Any more this time now? It's the last time of the day.
Take my hand, I'll lead you on so gently. That's the way we'll fall in love. We'll fall in love.
Right? You want tea or milk?
When a fair breaks up, the vans move out in different directions, each individual family going on to the next place where it thinks it can do best. Three weeks have passed. Up and down Britain, 600 fairs have come and gone. This one has been standing at Kendal in Westmoreland since the middle of last week. Now they're getting ready for the big day, Whitsuntide Saturday. Here is John Emerson, the man who gave up the priesthood and went into the family's Noah's Ark. This is it, the original roundabout with just a few of the animals replaced by motorbikes. The fairground organ is one of the few left in a business that's gone over to pop records. Also at Kendal are relatives of Walter Scott, who had the amusement arcade at Knutsford. His brother Willie and family, who are also in the one-armed bandit business, and his widowed sister-in-law Elizabeth Scott, who manages to run a waltzer with hired help. Kendal has a special place in the affections of the Scott family.
My wife's people, they've been coming 60, 70 years. My own wife's people, they've been coming well over 100 years, I should say. Quite a lot of our people have been married here too, and I myself was married here. And of course one or two have been buried in the town, so we normally regard it as hometown, you know, and we like coming to the place. The people's quite reasonable with us, and apart from after 10 like at night time when we close down, we do get a few of these roughnecks on, you know, out of the pubs and that. But
fair people pay no rent for the site at Kendal, which is common land. This year there's been a dispute about the duration of the fair with the local council, which is concerned to keep the traffic moving in the main road alongside. Here, as elsewhere, showmen are touchy about what they call their ancient rights.
I object to the curtailing of the period that we are allowed to stay on this fairground, because my grandfather, who was 83 when he died in 1900, had come here all his life. My father and mother came after him, and then I and the third generation, which have done this occupying of the said land.
Up to today, the fair has been open for only 3 of the 11 days it's been standing here. At many places, little is to be made out of mid-week opening. To a showman, a fine Saturday means a fine week. Today is an exceptionally fine Saturday.
My father suddenly took ill. We had sent the organ away to Veretta's in Manchester, and while he was laying dying, he said, "Do you ever think, John, about this organ being away? I'll be dead before he comes back." And of course, I was thinking about it. I said, "Oh no, Father, don't say that." He said, "I'll be gone, son. But while ever you have it, you'll never look back." And he died, and we never have looked back.
That's the walls around those. Hey?
Another day, another building up. It's Whitsuntide Sunday, and as always on this day, a fair grows up in the middle of the racecourse at Cartmel. By noon, the building up is complete, and tomorrow the holiday races will attract a crowd of many thousands.
This is an almost ideal site, as showmen would desire, you know. We're where something's happening and it's in pleasant surroundings. Everybody's enjoying themselves on a day out, and it's really nice to take money at a place like this, you know. But all sites aren't like this by any means, we only wish they were. The question of sites is of paramount importance to showmen, because unless something is done shortly about sites, it's going to drive us out of business. The business isn't dying, the business is being killed by this site problem. And a lot of it, I think, accrues to the motor car. Wherever there's open sites now, and even if it's been used for some time as a fairground, immediately they start using it as a parking plot, it's a car park, then it suddenly becomes no longer available to the showman. They forget about the enjoyment it's given to hundreds of thousands of children, the authorities forget that we have a business and we want to be in a premier position, because after all, you never see Woolworths take a site in a back street, do you?
Walter Scott has most of his career as a showman behind him. He has retired to the endless fascination of watching people in his amusement arcade and passed on the tougher business of running the Dodgems to his son. For an old showman like Walter Scott, almost every fair is an enormous family reunion. His brother Willie has moved in from Kendal with his one-armed bandits. So has his niece, Mrs. Percy Cook, with her dart stall. Her husband has a children's roundabout on the next pitch. Walter Scott's daughter-in-law, Carol, has a chaeroplane ride. His nephew, Randall Harris, a winner gonk stall. His cousin, Francis Hoadley, a throwing and shooting booth. His niece, Mary Hives, a hoopla stall. His great-niece, Patricia Hill, a shooter ball stall. And his cousin by marriage, Mrs. Pauline Hoadley, a children's roundabout. In fact, almost everyone on the 50 stalls and roundabouts at Cartmel is related in some way to Walter Scott and to each other. The show people of Britain are possibly the largest closely related community in the world, larger than the royal households, more closely related than even the clergy of the Church of England. So, in the long days of midsummer, to Newcastle, whose annual fair is amongst the biggest in the world. This being Tyneside, it begins with a speech.
As an old member of the Town Movement Parks Committee for nearly 20 years, it does give me particular pleasure to open this 1966 fair. And all I've got to say, may I hope that you all have a real good time, that the weather will be kind to you, and that each and every one of you will enjoy yourselves to the utmost. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Robert Green's caterpillar has crawled here by easy stages across the Pennines from Knutsford. The Evans family are here with their wall of death.
Woman and child shall see this most remarkable, thrilling and sensational exhibition.
In fact, almost every family in the fair business is represented by at least an uncle or a cousin.
Have you done any wrestling, son? You look a bit small to me. Come up here a moment, let's have a look at you.
Not counting the gypsies, whose living vans are segregated on the other side of the town moor, there are 300 tenants at Newcastle who have gained their coveted sites by inheritance or by paying several £100s to somebody leaving the business. Not here, much missed and fondly remembered, are Pauline Testo's Performing Fleas, which died last week.
However, we are hoping to get some more and be able to open it at the weekend. You see, there doesn't seem to be any fleas left in this country now. We get them by advertising, but people either haven't got any or won't admit they have. So we have to get them from abroad, and most of our supplies come from Portugal. If I can get a few within the next few days, I can put on a show, because the more simple things don't take very long, 2 or 3 days, like ballet and drawing carriages and so on, but cycling and the duelists, they take quite a bit longer.
Another inspector at one particular fair, Cambridge as a matter of fact it was, and he went up to one of our side show chaps who had a flea circus, and he said, how long do you work your performers? He said, well, we change them over after each show, you know, we have 2 sets. And thought he was actually kidding, you see, but he wasn't. He said if he hadn't told him that, he was definitely prosecuted. Cruelty to fleas.
We've had all sorts on the booth, challenging all comers. My grandmother used to challenge all comers off the front of the show. Mine, I suppose he shortened her life a little bit. She not to a great age, she only lived to about 85. But they tell me that she was really wonderful. No matter how much they threw punches at her, she could block punches, duck and weave, and they never hardly used to hit her.
The week is the highlight of the year for many show people. Like others who have a day of reckoning with the tax inspector, they're not given to boasting about profits. But this is one place where, in their own modest phrase, they count on taking a bob or two. The site is in the heart of the city. They're open for a solid week of local holidays. They expect 1 million visitors. All they need is good weather. This year, it lasted until the Thursday.
The way things are going on in the future now, the petty restrictions we have against us, we're losing a lot of fairgrounds. And of course, when we lose fairgrounds, they put us in fields where there's an example of it now. This is the sort of thing that is helping to kill the travelling showbiz, but in my opinion, it'll never die out. And especially with this shorter working week coming out as well, people, when they're going to have 3 days of leisure every week, they've got to find somewhere to go. And the show business, especially the travelling show business, is one entertainment that has lived through it all.
The one and only divulge with the famous dance of the 7 veils. Gentlemen, when the 7th and last veil falls, she will make the shirts on your backs fly up and down, just like a Venetian blind. The hair upon your very head will stand out straight, like the bristles on a porcupine's back.
Boxing, for the boxing fans,